It's another episode of the Next Fix podcast where we enjoy hearing the comeback story. It is the hero's journey and all of that, but it doesn't necessarily take place unless it's kind of hit rock bottom. When everybody's own journey has their own version of rock bottom. But today we've got the Rocket Man, Dan. I am so excited to hear about why a person would ever want to strap a rocket pack to their actual back. And by the way, I'm being literal here. In case anybody's wondering, like Rocket Man, no, that is not like some kind of terminology for really good cocaine. No, we're talking about an actual rocket pack here. So, but Dan, I want you to just tell us who you are real quickly, man. Just give us a little introduction here.
All right, so my name's Dan Schlund. I'm best known as the Rocket Man, which is basically flying a jetpack, but we use a rocket motor. And in a decade, I traveled to 26 countries, flew on 6 continents, and my book and my documentary coming out, both titled The Last Rocketman, because I am the last person to do this. In fact, more people have walked on the moon than professionally flew a Rocketbelt.
Dude, that's nuts. That's nuts, man. Like, I mean, now that I'm actually got my wheels turning about thinking having a rocket pack strapped to a human body, it's a little nuts. It's insane. It sounds crazy. But now, given the nature of this show, I understand that it wasn't just smooth. I don't want to say sailing, right? Because that's a little nautical. We want to use a term for rocket packs. I mean, do you got one? What is
Like
the
no turbulence. There's plenty of turbulence.
Sure. All right. So sans turbulence, like before before turbulence was like kind of cleared up for you. I mean, what was it like when turbulence was at its maximum for you in your life and journey as a rocket?
It got worse over time. As time went on, the thing is when you crash, you've got physical scars and you have mental scars. And it was the mental scars that were the toughest to get over. It was the anxiety, the ability to try to get past the fear of trying to fly this thing. And, ultimately, and we'll get into this later, medication became a big part of it, and it caught me in a bad position.
Yeah. Well, I want to know, how were those first, initiatives as far as flying a rocket pack? I mean, was this a dream of yours? Was it a bet? How on earth did you say, okay, let's do it. Give me that thing. I'm going. Like,
just like everything else, it's earned. So I worked on an ambulance in Los Angeles for a number of years, and I wanted to do something more exciting. I'm going to get into stunt work. I'm not a daredevil. I'm a stunt professional. And I traveled to a whole bunch of different countries performing in stunt shows like you would see at Six Flags. I played Indiana Jones, Batman. I was a cowboy that would get shot off the roof and everything. And I was selling some of my own shows. And then I had met the owner of the Rocketbelt, who happened to be Chuck Norris's stunt double.
Okay. Right, so you're an A-list stunt double, right? Okay. All right.
Not really, but I was always a guy getting beat up.
Sure. Well, hey man, I think that's implied with the job description, get beat up and thrown off of stuff. So you get the, what did you say? Rocketbelt, right? And this is like,
yeah. And I'll use the term Rocketbelt, jetpack. It's interchangeable. Sometimes it's just easier to say jetpack because that's what most people kind of think of it.
Sure. So, all right. So you're stunt double professionally and you're doing well. And then all of a sudden this opportunity comes. Okay. So this is lining up to where you are that type of person, but I really enjoy how you mentioned that you're not a daredevil. You're not reckless. You're a professional stuntman. And so the opportunity to strap this jetpack on and take off, for the sake of showmanship. So that's presented to you. Okay. So like, how did that journey go, man? Like, I imagine it went well for a while, right?
It took forever. So I met him, we talked. They said, "Hey, you'd be a pretty good pilot." And I'm like, "Okay, great." But just like in anything in the movie industry, "Oh, you'd be great at this." And then you never hear from them again. So I made sure to keep in touch with them for the next 2 years. Hey, Merry Christmas. How are things going? You have anything coming up my way? And I was very persistent. And then finally, one day they said, "Hey, why don't you come out to Texas?" I was living in California at the time. "Why don't you come out to Texas and try it?" Boom, I'm on a plane. I strap that thing on, and you start with a cable. It has to be on a cable because as soon as you pop that thing off, you are like a
Rocket.
firecracker at the end of a shoestring. You are all over the place. It is embarrassing.
Wow. All right. So there's a tether, right? You put
Yes.
it on, and so you just kind of go straight up, and then you're kind of just like, trying
Yeah,
to.
you try to go straight up and move forward and land. That's the goal. Now, the interesting thing about Kenny is he knew I was going to suck
Okay.
on the first turn of the throttle. And I told him right afterwards, I says, "Let's do it again. I could do something better." He goes, "Nope, that's all I wanted to know. Does this thing frighten you?" And it didn't.
That's nuts. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm scared, hearing about you doing this thing. That's amazing. And I feel like that's a gift. Well, maybe also a curse.
Always both.
However, so you put on the jetpack, you fly up, you're on this string, and he's thinking like, all right, this is going well, right? Because you're trying to get a grip on how to fly it. It goes well though, right? According to Kenny, right? So
Yeah, between him and I, because the thing is a lot of people want to fly this thing, but very few people, once they turn it on and they pop off the ground and they're all over the place, they're like, "I'm never doing this again." But not me. I was like, "You know what? I can get this just with some practice." And that's what he wanted to see is what was my attitude
threshold.
towards it. Yeah.
Right, right, right. So your threshold for the fear element is high, which is, I guess, a prerequisite for being a rocket man. And
Well,
so,
doing stunt work and everything, what really was a prerequisite, it's just not like they take anyone off the street. I have performed thousands of stunt shows. I've been on fire hundreds of times, thousands of high falls, and I'm able to perform in front of an audience. And that's one of the prerequisites is because you have not only have to do the stunts, but you also have to do the showmanship.
sure, sure. Yeah, there is like there's acting involved. Like you
Yes.
have to also be, cognizant of the scene and cognizant of like, people seeing you doing things. That's awesome, man. And so all right, well, it still sounds like things are kind of going well, right? So so
Yeah.
then, how did that develop? You started like doing shows on your own, or you finally got a chance to take
Well,
off the ground. I mean, what comes next?
so it took me a long time to just learn to take off, fly forward, and land. And it took me a lot longer than most pilots. And I just kept apologizing to him. "Look, I'm going to get this. I know I'm going to get this." And then finally the day came where I could just take off, fly forward, and land. So my first flights, and this is in the documentary, and we have all the raw footage, is great.
Yeah.
I take off, I fly, I land. Beautiful. Second flight, take off, fly a little bit farther, and land. Okay, let's do a third flight. Well, I fly, I land, and I bounce it up. He grabs me from behind, and I am just jettisoned into the ground, knocks me out cold. Now, the thruster is superheated steam coming out 3 times the speed of sound at about 1200 degrees, and I am basically being cooked alive. My whole right leg, I ended up in the hospital for 2 months. I lost 185 inches of skin, 3 skin graft surgeries. And he comes back to me and he says, "Look, if you want to quit, you can quit." And I thought to myself, if I quit now, I am going to live my life with a scar and I'm going to feel like a failure because I didn't get back on the horse.
That's
So
nuts.
it took a good 2
Can you
years.
say it again just so I can wrap my head about around what we're talking about here? This thing runs off of steam, and you said that steam is coming out at what, 1,200 degrees?
1,200 degrees.
And you're unconscious with this, with this rocket on your back, and it's cooking the right side of your entire right side, or mostly your leg, and you lost 180 plus inches of skin off of that side of your body.
Yeah, when I hit the ground, the thruster got bent in towards my leg, and the throttle arm was stuck in the ground. I got one guy holding onto my leg. Kenny was trying to shut off the rocket belt so that it would stop burning me, and I'm out. I'm completely out. I don't, which is a blessing, is because the recovery alone, the pain when it comes to such a large burn. And even the doctor said, once I kind of healed up, he says, I can tell you this now, but at the time, I didn't think you were going to survive. Your infection was so bad. It was such a big wound.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised you made it.
And that's
So,
in the documentary that you eaten it. You like,
yeah,
gosh.
there's pictures. They're gruesome, but they're great.
Right, right. You're a
It's
bit of a
just,
maniac, brother. I mean, I love it, but wow. All right. So then you're in the hospital. Kenny says you can bail, right? He gives
yeah.
you the green light to bail, and you say no because you thought about what your life would look like further down the road, having you know backed out after this nasty tumble, right? So
Well, a lot of it is from my stunt training, is that you don't want your last experience to be a negative one. So I'm like, okay, I'll get on it one more time. We'll see how it goes. One turns into two, two turns into four, four into eight, eight into 16. And before you know it, I've got master control of this extremely dangerous and volatile apparatus.
yeah. And so, how long did that take before you became a master? I mean, what was
About
that?
another year.
1 year?
Yeah. Now also, it's not every single day. I mean, we have to make the rocket fuel. We have other flights with the other pilots, so I'm managing those shows. So it's like, okay, where can we fit in the training? So we were traveling to a lot of different countries doing other performances. He wanted to have two Rocket Belt pilots, and I was the second one. So I was basically cutting my teeth on
Right.
these other jobs and kind of learning the ropes as we went along.
So nuts. How old were you when this is all going down?
30s.
Yeah.
I was in my 30s.
And so now you have kind of disclosed that in the midst of this, there was the introduction of opioids, right? Painkillers and stuff. What year did this happen?
This happened in 2001.
Okay.
2003, I got back on it. 2005 was my first professional flights. And the interesting thing is I was on opiates back then, full time. I mean, I had morphine drip hooked right into my vein, and I had no problem getting off of it
Sure.
until later.
Right. Now I asked the year because, the opioid epidemic, I was, I'll share my story. It's not as maybe not as cool, I guess, but I snapped my leg in a four-wheeling accident in Utah, right? So my tibia and fibula, I think I'm saying it right, but broke my leg,
You
right?
are.
And there's a rod in there. And I went to the doctor and they gave me enough pills to kill a rhinoceros, right? And that's kind of how I became a full-blown addict during that time. And that was around 2008, where they were just handing out, painkillers like candy to everybody, like in copious amounts. And so, but yeah, that's right around that time. But for a while, you would use the medicine and then just kind of leave it
Yeah,
alone.
at that time, I didn't have a problem getting off of it. And boy, they'd give me 90 of 10 milligram, 500 hydrocodone, and boop, I'd pop them. And then when I was finished with it, I was able to put it down
Wow. Okay. Well,
until later.
until later. Right. Do you feel comfortable talking about the later
Yeah.
part? All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get to that too. It's
Yeah.
because it was a long story. So I got to, I accomplished what I wanted to do. I started traveling the world and basically having a rock star life. But when you calculated out, I was making less than minimum wage
Wow. Right.
because, you know, you get one flight a month and yeah, maybe I'm making 3, 4,000 bucks, but you know, when you miss a month of having no performances. Well, in 2013, we'll just kind of jump right to it. I was doing a flight for Guinness Book of World Records. And it's like, okay, let's get into this. They said, we don't care what kind of world record you set or overcome. We just want to have one. Well, I didn't want to do height. I've taken it over 100 feet in the air. Okay, it's a little nerve wracking. Didn't want to do that. I didn't want to do speed, even though I've taken up to about 85 miles an hour on a drag race. And I thought, you know what? Why don't we do a slalom course? Go through, you know, some pylons. Now, as the years went by, my anxiety was getting worse and worse and worse. Some flights, my anxiety, and this is very important for you know the end part.
Yeah.
The anxiety would come at times where it's an easy flight. I just fly up and around, but my anxiety was crippling. I'd have to take Xanax beforehand and I would have to take a half,
Wow.
wait a half an hour, take another half so I wouldn't get too sleepy just because my anxiety was killing me.
So
Well,
you
on this,
hold on a second now,
yeah,
because listen, in my audience and including myself, I'm familiar with Xanax and a bar of Xanax and what that does to your abilities. And so you're taking a half a bar to be able to perform, right? Now, was the anxiety, do you believe, looking back, do you believe the anxiety was a result of the showmanship element or was it the danger? Because it seems like you weren't afraid so much. Was it being in front of the people and having to perform?
nah, it was the crash. It was deep down
PTSD.
inside my head and that's where that mental scar comes in. I was talking about is that crash scarred my psyche. And every time I got on that thing, your mind, your subconscious all automatically goes to, am I going to die? Now, when I'm up in the air and I'm flying, I'm cool as a cucumber. It's very easy. I've got perfect control. The equipment is very consistent, so I'm not worried about it crapping out, which is a rocket term.
All right, Dan, you just mentioned that you couldn't pinpoint the anxiety and it was crippling you. Do you feel that now you know exactly what it was from? I mean, you mentioned it was from the crash, but you know, I think anxiety, it's quite perplexing for myself. I haven't done well with managing it either. And I used to cope with drugs. So
Yeah,
do you feel like that part of it is imperative to like get over it, like to figure out exactly where it was coming from? Or was that just your struggle at the time?
that was the struggle at the time. Later on, I'll explain how I kind of accomplished that, but it was just something that was difficult. And then after talking to a few therapists and kind of figuring it out, basically they said, well, you got PTSD
Right.
because when you're sitting there and they're literally scrubbing the dead skin off your leg and the pain and everything, it really I didn't go too much into, you know, the recovery process, but it was painful
Meaning the recovery process,
of the
like
burn.
the burn itself. And
Yeah.
not only that, but like the physical therapy too, right? The muscle
Yeah.
tissue and all of that. So, all right, now you're on Xanax, you're on opioids, and you have like a career as a jetpack professional. However, it like wasn't really paying all that well. And so, you know, I mean, I guess where did the wheels really fall off? Was it a result of the
Yeah.
pills, or was it a result of the anxiety? Or I guess where did it all really start to really like where did the train come off the tracks?
Well, the Xanax, I wasn't on opioid at this time. It was just Xanax and it was just before a flight. So it wasn't an issue. It was just something to calm my nerves before the flight. But going back to the world record flight, man, I'm very cool. I'm excited. Everything's fine. There's not a big audience, so if I have to do it again, boom, I take off, I fly around. And as I'm coming into land, this rocket belt only has 30 seconds of propellants. You can only fly for 30 seconds. And for some reason, I ran out of fuel at 24 seconds and I come crashing down. And the video footage is awesome. You'll see it in the documentary.
Hold
I
on.
got the
When you say awesome, man, I'm thinking about like limbs going crazy. Like,
It was that. I had the POV camera on my chest. I come down, you see me hit the ground, you hear me going, and then you see just dust and dirt, and I flip over, and I mean, just beautiful footage. Now, I say that kind of tongue in cheek because
sure.
I would rather not have crashed, but if I am going to crash, get it on video.
Yeah. And then have it in a documentary. I mean,
Yeah,
you want it to be useful for.
yeah. My safety guy runs up, he's perfectly in frame. He's like, "Oh,
Wow.
damn, medic, medic, medic."
So did you break the world record?
No, I broke my neck though. I didn't break the world record, but I did break my neck.
Jeez. All right. Okay.
This
So
is where the problem came in.
yeah. Yeah.
So broke my neck. Now by that time I had been having some personal issues with Kenny, and he with me and trying to figure out what I'm going to do with my life, because now I've got a son and a family, and I can't afford to, it was just all falling apart. So I go in there, and the doctor, they prescribed a ton of hydrocodone, and it wasn't a real bad break, but it was enough to leave a little tingling in my finger. And I had to wear the cone of shame,
Ooh. Yeah.
the neck brace. But my problem is now, mind you, I've never smoked pot. I've never done any illegal drugs, but I couldn't get off the hydrocodone.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would take it, and I was just taking my prescribed amounts, but I couldn't get off of it because when I would try, my anxiety would boil up. So I go to a facility, I go to a rehab facility, a Christian one, and they're testing me, they're giving me what's Suboxone,
Yeah.
which at a very high dose, I was more stoned on the Suboxone than I was just taking my normal dose, but they thought I was lying because everyone else there was taking 5, 10 pills. I'm
Right.
like, no, this is my thing.
And I could tell you my experience was that, I mean, I told the truth one time in a scenario like that, one time, and
Huh?
they didn't believe me, but the reason, it's not as if they were just trying to be jerks, it's just because you could safely assume anybody in that type of a circumstance, or, in that type of a facility, you could easily quadruple whatever they're saying, and it's probably closer to the truth. So you tell them the truth, and then they give you some Suboxone, and then the Suboxone is actually getting you more loopy than the actual hydrocodone, right? All right. So
Yeah. And I was in there for a good month and a half, but it was the best thing that I did because I'm kind of a religious guy. I dove into the Bible. I prayed. I needed to find my new identity because not only did I lose, doing that, but I lost my identity. What am
yeah.
I going to do? Who am I going to be? Well, once I got out of there, that didn't solve the anxiety problem.
Oh,
And the
wow.
doctor that I talked to said, you know what? Opiates are great for anxiety, but you never prescribe them because of the addictive and all the counter indicated. It's very bad. It's more bad than good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why I was on them, is because I could my mind was free and clear. So what they ended up doing is finding kind of a different anti-anxiety medication that I still take to this day, 11 years later, which kind of calmed my mind. I tried getting off of it, but then the anxiety just comes back. So this might just be something. The price I had to pay to be Rocketman is to be on these anti-anxieties for the rest of my life, which I'm not crazy about, but what am I going to do?
Hey, well, listen, man, it's like, like with myself, and I'll just give you an example. Like I'll buy like an energy drink. Yes, I drink. I'm not clean. Like I am not on drugs, but I don't have a clean life. Like I'm not that good. And so when I do have, and I am most certainly addicted to caffeine. And when I do purchase this caffeine, every once in a while somebody will say, hey, that's not good for you. And I'd say, well, at least it's not meth. It's like, like lay off me, like I'm moving in the right direction. And so when I hear that, like, yes, you're on a medication for PTSD after losing 180 plus inches of flesh, listen, man, you've been through some stuff. And so we're all just getting along here, brother. And so, yes, all right. So it's not perfect. Okay. But well, let me ask you this. Would you trade being completely free and clear off of this medication for being Rocket Man? Meaning, like,
No,
would you exactly. You would
no.
not forego that
Not not
experience.
not at all. And there's a great redemption arc to this. This is just a halfway point.
Yes.
There's more.
Right. Well, let's hear it. Hit me with
So
it.
I say to myself, what am I going to do with my life? So I was an EMT in California. I says, you know what? I'm going to become a paramedic because a paramedic always kind of scared me off a little bit. I'm going to become a paramedic and I'm living in Texas now. In Texas. And I get my paramedic license and, I start working on the ambulance, volunteering at a local fire department and all that stuff. But still, I'm not making the money. Paramedics don't make a lot of money.
Yeah.
But what I did do is I used to do set medic work where you work on the movie sets and you provide, care to the cast and crew. Well, that started to take off. And then I wouldn't be able to do a job. So I'd call up one of my friends. Hey, I split the money with you. Well, pretty soon these medics or these producers are calling me. Hey, do you have anyone in Florida? I'll find you somebody. Boom. I take half, give them half. And now I'm starting to make some money.
Okay.
And in a decade, I created a company called National Set Medics. And in a decade, I've grossed over $10 million. So going from basically making no money
Right.
to a multimillionaire
Yeah.
doing something. And the Christian part of me comes out. I think God needed to pull me out of where I was because he had something better for me in store.
Wow. Hey, man, and I'm with you on that, brother. I feel like I'm the kid in the backseat of the van and God's driving, and I'm like, "Are we there yet?" And he's just, like, smiling and ignoring me, and I'm like, "Are we there yet?" And it's like, that's I
Let
just
me ask,
can't wait to see what he has for me, and, but that's knowing isn't my job, right? Having faith in the driver of said van, right, is
right,
so.
let me ask you a question. If all of a sudden you had about $4 or $5 million land in your lap, what would you buy?
And that's a very hard question. Like you're talking about, I would, I would say, like, if we're talking about like a possession of some type,
Yeah, a possession, an item.
it'd be a home, right? I feel like
Okay,
it.
yeah.
I think it has to be a property, right? I think it has to be.
You know what I
Maybe a
bought?
building, huh?
You know what I bought?
Oh, rocket bag!
I bought the rocket pack.
My God! Oh my
I
God!
I bought the rocket pack and I bought the property. I bought the hangar with all the training stands and it's a great rental property for airplanes and I've got a couple apartments in there.
Okay, all
So
right.
some people go on, they buy a nice car or they buy, some designer clothes and stuff. No, I bought the jetpack.
Okay.
And I
How?
said,
And you just out of curiosity, though, what does that run you? What does a jetpack run these
well,
days?
I
I
got it.
I can check Facebook Marketplace, but I don't know.
No, there are only two, and she was only willing to sell one because Kenny had died many years ago. So she was looking to sell one, and she gave me a very good price. I don't really want to say, but if I were to
All
build
right.
one myself,
Right.
I would have to have spent a lot more money.
Okay. Well,
Now the
just
hangar,
give me an idea but you said it was you had a handful of millions. I don't know. Is it over 1,000,000? Like for that kind of
no,
technology?
no, no,
Okay.
we're talking a little less than 100,000.
Okay. All right.
Now
Well,
the hangar cost me, $700,000
sure. Sure, sure,
to
sure.
buy.
Right.
And I said to myself, you know what? My motto is don't let your last experience be a negative one. So
All
I'm going to
right.
get back in this thing and I'm going to fly it. And then I got to thinking, well, if I'm going to fly it, let's film this. Let's turn this into a documentary.
Got it.
So I'm the executive producer on The Last Rocketman. I'm the main subject. And I said to the creative team and the director and the other producers, I said, you just film me however I want. I won't tell you anything creative. If I
Okay.
look like a fool, then I look like a fool. Just make it look good.
Yeah.
And I didn't expect the anxiety to hit me again when I decided I had to get back on that. Now, I'm not on the medication, but I do drink a little bit more. And it's been 2 years since I flew it, and I'm still kind of not a lot, but I like to have a couple of drinks to a couple of
Sure.
beers to calm
Got it.
me out. In fact, my first flights on the cable after 10 years, I must have had 4 beers. And I didn't think that because I'm on the cable, nothing's gonna happen.
Right.
I didn't think the director noticed, but he was like, "Hey, you know what, Dan? Maybe on your next free flight or your next tether flights, don't do so much. Let's just take it easy a little
Lay
bit."
off the sauce.
I got
Man.
caught. I got caught.
Well, let me tell you, man, like, wow. Like I had rode one of my old motorcycles when I was young. I rode one after having like a couple of beers, right? This is before I was a full-blown alcoholic and all of that. However, I distinctly remember how I wasn't quite able to I just wasn't right. I wasn't with it. And that was after a couple of beers and riding like a street bike here in Florida, right? And I thought to myself like, "Wow, that was a couple of beers and I'm not going to do that." And I actually did ride motorcycles, but I mean, it's a long
Well,
time ago. So you so
yeah,
you got caught by the director, and
yeah.
it's so crazy, man.
And he was friendly. He was friendly about it, but he was like, "Look, and I don't think it affected my flying any. It just because whenever we were on the road, we had a term, 8 hours bottle to throttle.
In
So
between. Right.
yeah, so I would never drink before a public flight, nothing like this. This is on the cable. This is completely different. So I don't want people to think, oh, Rocket Man's out there doing all these flying and stuff, and he's drunk. No, I never even started drinking until I was 27, and
Yeah.
even then, it was very social.
So, all right. So back to like you've got this hand me down rocket pack.
Yeah.
You got this. You got this discounted rocket pack, and you're filming, and then you created the documentary, The Last Rocket Man. Now, when was that? How long ago was that?
So that was 2013. No,
Okay.
I'm sorry, 2023. So
Okay.
that was 10 years, exactly 10 years after my broken neck crash.
Yeah. Yeah. And now the anxiety. Well, how's that going? Right. You completed the documentary, and then it sounds like it's still kind of like still something that it's a big deal.
I still struggle with it. I mean, it comes and goes. Sometimes, and it's very situational. Like I'll have a lot going on with National Set Medics, and for some reason, and I'm sure your audience will understand this. Sometimes it just hits you, and there's no trigger. And so what I do is I have clozapam. So on top of my anti-anxiety, if it really starts to bubble up, I can take a clozapam, and it it brings me down. Not that I can't, function without it. It's just the joy it's hard to concentrate
Yeah.
when you're thinking about anxiety. Anxiety is very powerful,
Oh, yeah.
very
Yeah.
detrimental when it's and not that, and it's just because I put myself in very unusual situations where I pushed myself
Right.
to do things where my mind and my body were like, no, stop. No, I'm going to do it. I have to do it. We got a performance, they spent so much money to have us there. And I couldn't do it anymore. I had to quit.
Yeah. So when was that? I mean, if 2023 is when you wrapped up the documentary,
Yeah.
so you had mentioned a redemption arc, right? So in your words, how do you feel that was realized?
I feel the fact that I was able to get on it again for the documentary, and it wasn't just getting on it again. I had to lose 40 pounds, and I'm not the daredevil. Well, I hate to say daredevil. I'm not the daredevil I used to be.
Sure.
So when I'm getting back on this, I mean, my son at the time was 13. So I'm thinking to myself, man, if I crash, there's a small chance I might die in this flight. At the worst, I'd break a couple of bones or something.
Sure.
But just like that third free flight, I got burned seriously. So there's always, the risk there. So the redemption arc is that not only did I fly it once, but I flew it twice. We
Yeah.
only show the one flight in the documentary, and you have to watch it to see if I survive or not.
Wait, I know the ending. What are you talking about? You can't fool me, Dan. You can't fool me. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome, man. Well, you know, I think that I can appreciate that you push yourself and you're open about it. And you're not presenting it as this tough guy. Like you're like, hey, like the anxiety was, kicking my butt like most of the time. And you managed to get enough courage together to pull it off, And that's pretty cool, man.
Well, I mean, I lost my identity. I couldn't fly the Rocketbelt anymore. I lost my wife. We're still very good friends, and, we raised Danny great, but I lost a lot. But, you know, when you have a dream and you have a purpose, I feel in that all of it, I feel accomplished.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing is when you get to the end of your life and you don't have your body doesn't work the way it used to work anymore and you're an old man or an old woman, you don't want to have to look back on your life and have regrets.
Yeah.
Don't have regrets. And for those of you that might be struggling with a substance, the point is that you can get off of it,
Yeah.
get free and clear, and you can still go on to do amazing things. I mean, I'm living proof of that. I was no money, no savings, curled up in a ball crying. And it slowly, as I started to break it apart and get myself back together, I was able to not only survive, but I was able to thrive. And now, man, I live pretty darn comfortable.
Yeah.
So
Well, what would you say, being a man of faith, right? Like, what, do you feel that your faith is what was that there the entire time? Or
the entire time, not once did I ever get mad at God. Not once did I ever say, why me? What I did was, especially when I was trying to get off the hydrocodone and everything, I would lay flat on the ground and I would just pray, Lord, show me a way out of this.
yeah. Yeah.
Lord, show me what you want. Whatever it is you want me to do, I will do for you. And I just humbled myself. I just completely gave myself up to God and said, you open the doors and make it clear to me because I'm pretty stupid. Make it clear. What is it that you want me to do? And not only did he reward me with, a great company, he gave me the jetpack back. I mean, what kind of God? I mean, that's awesome.
That's pretty cool, man. Yeah. Yeah, that's a gift that I also feel is I've used the term feather in my cap. I
Yeah.
kind of boast about it a little bit. However, it's a part of it is foregoing the victim mentality and not getting mad at God or anybody else and taking ownership. And I never once got mad at God. I knew that I was making a decision. I was making a choice to pick up the bottle. I was making a choice to snort the cocaine. I was doing that. And by not placing the responsibility outside of myself, what a gift. It
Yeah.
even though it wasn't a very short process, I do feel it shaved off some time by not blaming anybody. And I had all of the great people to blame or, my parents weren't around, they were addicts, all that. I had that low-hanging fruit of the blame game, and I chose not to do it. I just knew in the back of my head at the end of the day, I was the one making that decision. And when I made the decision to not do it anymore, even though I felt like I may not be able to, I made the decision to put it down. God really picked up the rest of the he took the rest of the weight and he carried it off. And so what an outstanding, you know, process that is. And it's so cool. I know that you had mentioned that you don't use the term like addiction recovery, and that wasn't, the spotlight wasn't on that in your journey. However, you embody that process wholeheartedly, right? And I think
He,
that's
he,
yeah.
here's the thing. I'm so thankful to be on your podcast because everyone wants to hear about the flights and they want to hear about stories and they want to hear about getting back on the horse, which is great. But now I could really dive into, and that's why I kind of stuttered a little along the way a little bit about the dependency issue that I had because maybe we mention it, but we don't dive into it. And I think that really is one of the biggest part of the stories is that even for somebody who doesn't do illegal drugs, you can still get caught up in this,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
and it's detrimental and
Yeah.
how to get out. I going back to the Christ thing, I think God is the ultimate GPS. You get off route, he'll show you a way back. Now you might have to go through a pretty crummy neighborhood. It might take you longer, but ultimately he'll still bring you back to
Yeah.
home.
That's amazing, man. That's so good. Yeah, the GPS analogy really does work in a lot. I've heard it, there's been all kinds of I just feel like in this day and age, which it hasn't been that long. GPS hasn't really been, remember MapQuest, right? Like
Yeah,
that wasn't
yeah,
all that long ago, right? However, it's like the GPS, it like doesn't get mad at you or anything. It just shows you the way back to where you want to be. And so
right.
it's so valuable to think of it that way, that framework.
I know what else I was gonna say. Just talking to you, I can see how there's just a glow, just a happiness, a sense of confidence and security in who you are and everything, and it's refreshing to see, and the fact that you're putting it out there in this specific subject is so admirable that it's just incredible. So, thank you for doing what you do. I think it's stories out there that really need to be told because a lot of people suffer
Yeah.
from issues.
It just I appreciate that, Dan. That is that means a lot to me. And
Yeah.
I think having the space for people to share and kind of open up about it, that's valuable. And I know that like I'm not this is not therapy. I'm just a future oriented kind of person. So it's always very important to me to highlight, that the comeback story, how valuable it is to us as people and how important it is for somebody who thinks it may not be for them because I think it's for all of us. And you made a great point that when you're in the heat of the moment, when you're in the low part, you just can't see it and you don't think it's possible for you. And then you mentioned yourself, it's like not only was it possible for you, but God gave you back the jetpack, right? It's like it's you cannot imagine. You can't imagine how good things can be. And so then therefore, to my point that I made earlier, it's not your job to figure out the how or do anything other than have faith that you can. And if you
Yeah.
can just hold on to that one little piece of the journey and just believe that you can and have faith that you will, all of a sudden it becomes true. And so hearing somebody's story like yourself, I mean, it's important for us to have that reminder. It's important for us to understand that. So it's
Yeah.
awesome. I want to know more about what you got. There's a book that comes alongside of the documentary, and I
Yeah,
believe
so So I wrote the book. Both the book and the documentary are called The Last Rocketman, and it's in bookstores now. The documentary, it takes a long time to edit up something like that, especially with the quality that we're putting in. So that'll probably end up on Netflix or Amazon. We're still looking for the right narrator, but we passed legal. We've got the coloring going. We've got the music soundtrack being laid. So hopefully that'll come out this year. And basically the book dives more into basically it's a memoir. What happened, what led up to this, the struggles with the dependency, and also a good amount of God in it. It doesn't beat you over the head, but it just kind of lets you know where I was going with that. And
Yeah.
it's just a great story of, in my experience, redemption.
Right. Well, I love it, man. I love it. And I think that you've led a rather accomplished, you used the word accomplished. And it's also like, it's just awesome, you know?
Yeah.
Because you said earlier that there's less people that have done what you did with a rocket pack than people that have been on the moon and all of that. And so it's like pretty awesome, man. And so, as I had alluded to earlier in the show, it's like we're being literal here about an actual rocket strapped to you. It's just freaking crazy, man.
It's wild. And you know what's so funny is, by doing these podcasts, I'm really kind of cutting my teeth and learning how to answer questions and finding out who I am, because it's so normal. After this interview, I'm going down, I'm cleaning out the cat box. You know, you get into a normal rhythm of life, but when you stop and you say, "Man, this is what I did," and I came so close to the abyss,
Sure.
but I was able to navigate myself out of that and have a peaceful life. It's a story that needs to be shared, and to those who want to hear it. And
Well, I think it's also going to be super entertaining too, right? Like, it's like I've
there's
had a few
videos,
conversations. It
dude,
sounds
videos
like it's
on
a book.
flying in the carnival parade in Rio de Janeiro, flying down that, flying out of the float at the Rose Parade in Russia, Turkmenistan, New Zealand, Australia. I mean,
That's nuts, man. So
it's
cool.
crazy.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, just say real quickly where everybody can go and find out. I looked at your website earlier, but just say it real briefly so everybody knows.
So go to, see if you can see it, rocketman.org. No, rocketman.tv. Rocketman.tv.
Love it. Rocketman.tv. Hey, it's pretty soon.
Rocketman.tv. And if you want to get a copy of the book, there's a link there. You'll see all kinds of great pictures of some of the different flights, lighting the cigar in a tuxedo, and then, the social media sites, all that stuff.
Awesome.
It's all centered there.
So great, brother. Well, you're an absolute blessing, Dan. I appreciate you spending your time with me, these wonderful people. And so that has been another episode of The Next Fix.